For the first video on this channel, I decided that a short introduction to what the Syana Project is would be a pretty good start. Syana is, in the simplest terms, a highly in-depth world-building project focusing on a fictional country called Syana that I have been working on continuously for the past 3 or so years. This project started out as a conlang, which for everyone here who isn't a linguistics nerd, is a constructed language, a la Klingon or Dothraki. Since the initial conlang, however, this project has grown to encompass many more aspects of the fictional nation. On my website, I have over 50 pages detailing everything from their religion, culture, legal system, history, education, geography, and loads of other tiny little chunks of world building that flesh out the identity and culture of Syana. But that's enough preamble. Getting into the heart of it, Syana is a country comprising 5 islands located in the middle of the South Pacific. In terms of size, the width across all the islands is nearly 2,000 miles, or just over 3,000 kilometres, with the country spanning 1,100 miles, or 1,800 kilometres, north to south. The 5 main islands are Olakaraka Island, Ilana Maras Island, Bia Oloma di Kakamisal Island, Minuladala Island, and Biala Sayanisa Island. The population of Syana as of 2023 is 120 million people, which makes it the 12th largest country on Earth in universe, just beating out the real-world 12th place spot of the Philippines. 7.6 million of those people live in the capital of Syana, Kandal, and in total 30 million people live in cities across the country. This means that 25% of Syana's population lives within a city, the rest living in villages and towns. The world in which Syana exists, which I often call the Syanaverse, is essentially identical to ours in literally every way. Syana just also happens to exist. So, for every historical date and time period ever mentioned, the rest of world history remains completely unchanged. In regards to history, Syana was a series of culturally connected islands that were inhabited by various tribal societies throughout most of their existence. These tribes, for much of their history, were united into 3 main nations, known in the modern day as Balisa Okada, Mokoso Okada, and Kasara Okada. These nations were the lands belonging to the Balisa, Mokoso, and Kasara people respectively. This relatively simple existence lasted up until the dawn of the 18th century AD, when in 1710 British explorers discovered and swiftly colonised the islands. Under British rule, many of the native people, especially those belonging to the Mokosan tribes in the northeast, were enslaved and put onto plantations to grow crops imported by the British. This age, known today as the Great Enslavement, or Abia Gana or Laldiakado di Nalsimam in Siam, lasted for a century until the Kandal Revolt in 1815. This revolt, led by a former house slave named Lana Ka, became a bloody war for independence, which the people of Syana won. Across the next year, a government resembling the traditional structures of authority found in pre-colonial tribal society was established. Lana Ka took the position as the first Jara of Syana, a position comparable to a monarch. From this moment on, Syana became an internationally recognised nation, developing close ties with France and America in the coming years. In the modern day, Syana is an economically successful country, with a large tourism industry and close connections to America. The language spoken in Syana, and the source of this entire project, is Syan. This language uses a modified branch of the Latin alphabet, due to written language being introduced by colonisers in the early 18th century. Syan as a language is fully functional, however the dictionary is constantly being added to, and I am, as of recording this, working on finishing the 2nd textbook on learning Syan. In universe, Syan is spoken by 122 million native speakers, the majority of which live within Syana, while roughly 2 million others live in diaspora communities across the globe. The largest Syan diaspora communities can be found across the USA, especially in large cities such as New York, LA, and Seattle. Syan is an agglutinative language, with much of the grammar and morphology being handled by simple affixation. This, as well as the simple and often algorithmic grammatical rules, make the language very easy to pick up to learners of Syan, a feature that was at the heart of the initial conlang. The Syan language sounds something like this. Alili moalni ajilan no dokara o dalanian dilai ra'ad, ladin lakalamni no sakni amamana dilam dilai o liana pa akori, no lal o bab di rona o lodisni asobaba amia oka no amia miali layani o liana pa amia oka badad ad. Na lomin o gio inala ad lidolalani nara asalakon no liani badani adilani digolos dili nalayan a amali o mani dilai. No la lilodis layani la soa akori. One of the largest and most in-depth areas of this project is the native polytheistic religion of Syana, called Radayanism. Known as Radayan in Syan, this religion is actually split into 2, the highly traditional and unorganised tribal form of the religion called Radayan Diroa, and the modern, organised and more popular in the 21st century branch known as Radayan Diakaraso. The latter, named after its founder Radodal Akara, was created in 1821 when he wrote a book detailing how the ancient religion of the Saiyan people could be modernized and structured so that it better reflected the united and organized nation of Syana. Likening the unification of Proto-Saiana's three tribal nations into one modern country to the unification and merging of the many hundred localized religious groups across Syana into one large organized religion. One of the key principles of Radayan Diakaraso, the dominant form of the religion, often simply referred to also as just Radayanism, is its emphasis on individual and decentralized belief and theology. This is what makes it unique and so highly studied in the Sayanaverse. Not only does Radayanism encourage people to explore their faith and question, challenge, and reinterpret their beliefs, this is actually the foundation of the entire religion. Both Western and Saiyan scholars have called Radayanism a religion of literature, since instead of having any formalized scripture, Radayan Diakaraso instead has an almost endless count of Okaraida. A Karaida is a book written by a religious scholar or a local or national religious leader about their ideas and opinions on topics within Radayanist philosophy, theology, cosmology, and even how the religion is practiced. Every temple in Syana has a religious library attached, filled with Okaraida covering a multitude of topics. Many conflicting ideas and beliefs exist within this religion, and it is up to each individual person on what they agree with and what they do not. So that was a brief overview of the core elements of the Syana Project. Now onto this channel. What is it for? Well, this channel is essentially an extension of my website, the Syana Encyclopedia. On this channel, I intend to cover all aspects of this project in as much detail as physically possible, detailing every aspect of Saiyan culture, society, history, religion, and politics. Some videos will be shorter overviews like this one, while others will be longer deep dives into specific niches of the project. I also plan to have a series of videos teaching the Saiyan language, expanding on the textbooks I have written to give more examples and explanations into all that is needed to speak Saiyan. So I hope you stick around and let me guide you through the rich and beautiful culture of Syana. Kadamawa adil rico inaudala moa ba aminil.